It's an interesting stat. I didn't know that.
And then I got a phone call that said there was a company that was interested in getting into Bitcoin mining. And I was at Core and things were going really well. We were growing that business. They really wanted to go public at some point. And then I was like, I'm not that interested. But then they said it was DCG. And at the time I was like, wow, DCG wants to get into Bitcoin mining. Like that really changes the game. So I flew down to New York, met with Barry. We hit it off. And Barry was basically like, here's a white sheet of paper, figure out what we can do to help build the mining ecosystem in North America. So he was seeing large inflows of capital from institutional investors into Bitcoin. China really dominated the Bitcoin mining ecosystem, right? They made the machines, they had most of the hash rate, they had the pools. So there was this worry that this would become a Chinese dominated token, or people wouldn't invest in Bitcoin because it was run by the Chinese. Barry's like, look, we have to get hash rate into North America. We have to balance this. And I want to figure out how we can help, go leverage the DCG balance sheet, its brand, its network, its connections. Here's a white sheet of paper. Tell me what we can do. And he said, we're going to call the company Foundry. So I was like, all right, that's the beginning of it. And
so Mike, you have the name, you have the white sheet of paper. What's on the paper? What did you put? How does this, do you still have the original paper today? You want to pull it out of your wallet?
No, it's still blank. No, so we spent a couple months like brainstorming what to do. And for me, I was like, look, at the North American miners have built out the ecosystem, the infrastructure. This is October of 2019. So it was bear market, and it's a bear market. We didn't really experience the same bear market this time around. I think mostly because the public miners are able to print money from their ATMs. But back then, and you remember, you were around, October of 2019, we weren't sure anyone was going to make it. It was brutal. It was ugly.
It was a long bear market. I remember that.
And the halving was right around the corner. And it was just this is not going to end well. So everyone was cash poor, but they had rack space. So we built an equipment financing business. I said, hey, we could use the equipment as collateral. Nobody had done it yet. And Barry, to his credit, he was like, I love that idea. Let's go all in on that. And then COVID hit. And again, to Barry's credit, he said, hey, Mike, if you're going to do equipment financing, you probably should buy some machines. And I'm like, oh, yeah, good idea. I said, well, how many do you want me to buy? And he goes, I'd buy all you can buy. And I'm like, okay, that's different than what I'm used to in the mining space where no one has any money. So we started placing orders. And what we didn't know was there was a chip shortage at that point in time. And we were placing orders for the new M30S and the new S19s that weren't going to ship until post-halving. So COVID, market collapses and Bitcoin's back to $3,500 or something. And we're wiring tens of millions of dollars to China to jump to the front of the line to get machines. We had equipment financing. And I called everybody saying, I got machines, I got equipment financing. And the majority of people told me, your rates are too high, mining economics stink, these are new machines, and halving is right around the corner. No, thank you. And what was tough is Barry said, the only thing I don't want to be was a Bitcoin miner. And I remember I flew back down to New York. I sat in his office and I was like, hey, I didn't fly back down to New York because it was COVID. So we got on the Teams call and he said, no one took me up on my offer and I got a lot of machines coming. And he goes, well, I guess we'll be a Bitcoin miner. So that was the beginning of it. So we were the biggest Bitcoin miner in 2021. We didn't want to be.
Are you bigger than Genesis at that time?
Bigger than Genesis.
Genesis Digital,
Genesis Digital. Sorry.
Yeah.
Were we bigger than that? Yeah, I think we were. I think we were definitely the biggest one in North America.
Yeah.
For sure. I know we weren't the biggest globally because there were still really big Chinese miners at the time, even Bitmain.
But to your point, you had a lot of hash power. You're packing it. You guys are expanding.
We put it everywhere. I called everyone back up. They had rack space and we plugged in machines everywhere. And then, of course, the economics flipped in the back half of 2020. Everybody wanted to become a Bitcoin miner. We did not want to be the biggest. We wanted to build the ecosystem. And that's the heart, I think, of Foundry is we continue to want to build out the ecosystem, make the ecosystem stronger. And Barry was very much think in terms of decades. He didn't care what happened month to month, quarter to quarter. He's like, this is going to be here for a long time. We had this vision that long-term energy companies and nation states would be the biggest miners and they needed trusted partners. So we wanted to be that trusted partner, which is why we launched the pool, because it was like the only option was really Chinese pools. So we launched the Foundry USA pool, and then we strategically sold the machines back into the miners so that they could get off the ground and get going and go public and raise more money. And like, we wanted to fuel that machine for it to get going. So yeah, it's been a wild ride. Like, we never anticipated being the biggest pool in the world, but here we are. So now we're like, what else can we do to help the miners, right? So we've leaned very heavily into enterprise software solutions, running, like, I'm not sure everyone really understands the technical lift to run a pool this size. It's massive. I mean, we're literally doing something that nobody else in the world has ever done, ever.
I mean, explain that to me, because I think most people have no idea.
When we launched the pool, there was 100 exahash in the entire ecosystem. Today, so when we started growing, the network grew. When we became the biggest pool in the world, we captured about 30% of the market. We hit about 60 exahash at that point in time. And at 60 exahash, nobody had ever put 60 exahash through the pool technology. So Stratum servers, your relay networks, your infrastructure, right? Today, we run 280 exahash through our infrastructure. And that's, it's 280 billion guesses a second is what is basically being pumped through our pipes. So it's a lot. It's a lot to take care of. It's a lot to maintain. There's a lot of, responsibility there. And it's a key part of making the Bitcoin network work, right? So anyways, we're leaning into the expertise we built around that from a software development perspective to provide miner management software that can scale that. And we really focused on institutional customers. We're now leaning into firmware because we feel like there needs to be a really strong, stable aftermarket firmware product. And then the other part of our business was site services, where we said, hey, these miners, as they get bigger, they're going to want to outsource more of their back office. They're not going to want to have to deal with all the headaches of running facilities. And we said, hey, we think we can build that capability and do it better and do it at scale. And so we've been building that business for the last couple of years. So it's been fun.
I love it. I mean, you really highlighted some of the core businesses of Foundry. And I think one of the things I want to talk more about, Mike, is the pool, because it is such a core aspect of every miner's revenue stream. And you guys are someone who've done it differently, to your point, by building it from the ground up. Walk me through that development process. What type of hurdles came up, and what any memorable moments you want to share that might be some behind the scenes that don't usually come out?
Memorable moments.
Like breaking 100 exahash. Do you have a party?
I remember the first block we mined, November 3rd, 2020. I think we were like 3 days in. At that point in time, I think we had like 1%. We were 1% of the whole network ourselves as a miner, right? We were a pretty big miner, relatively speaking, at that time. And we threw all of it at trying to get the pool off the ground. And I want to say we went 3 days without mining a block at that point in time. And those 3 days, you're like, does the tech work? Does it not work? How much can we burn, right? Like, how much money can you burn? That's a lot. We're burning 1% of all exahash every day for 3 straight days. And I remember mining the first block, and it was like, holy shit, we did it. It works. Like, we can mine a block. That's exciting. And then the variability is just, and that's the part that most miners really do not understand or comprehend, the variability around mining blocks, which is also what makes the Bitcoin network so special. Since we've launched the pool, like, I have such a deeper understanding and admiration for the Bitcoin white paper. Like, I really, literally will go down as, I think, the greatest invention of our lifetime. And it'll probably take another 20 years for us to really appreciate what Satoshi was able to put together. Like, it really is incredible in terms of like, people talk about like, oh, it's hard money and there's a 21 million cap. But the way mining works is just fascinating. And this idea of proof of work and connecting it to like reality, I think is so cool. The fact that it's driven purely by the software and it self-regulates, the fact that it can't be gamed, like, you can't game it. Like, you can't get an edge, which is mind-blowing to me. Anytime that like the new money's coming in, or the new big money's coming in, like BlackRock coming in, and I listen to these guys talk about the Bitcoin network, and I'm like, they don't realize yet that they can't game the system.